We've all had that moment, you finish a track and it's loud, polished, clean, but somehow it just feels a bit lifeless, a bit sterile, digital. Then you hear an old Dilla or a Mad Lib tune and the groove breathes. That's not magic, it's movement. Today I'm going to show you how the tiniest pitch drift, plus or minus 3 cents, can bring digital samples back to life. Let's talk about what's really happening when something sounds analog. We tend to think it's about warmth or saturation, but the truth goes deeper. It's about instability. Every analog playback system, from a Revox tape machine to a Technics turntable, drifts slightly in pitch and timing. Engineers measured this as wow and flutter, the deviation in speed over time. A Studer 880 tape machine has about 0.04% wow and flutter. A Technics turntable, about 0.025. Convert that to pitch, roughly 2 to 3 cents. It's tiny, far below what we consciously hear as out of tune, but enough for our ears to feel motion. Psychoacoustic research by Zwicker and Fassel shows we notice pitch change at around 5 to 6 cents, but we respond emotionally to smaller fluctuations. Tape, vinyl, early samplers, they all had micro vibrations in pitch that never repeated the same way twice. Even early digital boxes drifted. The MPC 60 and the SP 1200 clocks weren't totally stable. The SP's crystal would wander by about 0.02%. That's microcents per trigger. Stack a load of them and you get swing not just in rhythm, but in pitch. So when we rebuild that in the box, we don't need to add noise or filters first. We need to add movement. Plus minus 3 cents of random drift reintroduces the physics that tape, vinyl, early samplers gave us for free. So we've got a drum break here. I'm going to throw it into Cubase's sampler track purely because I just want to use this fine tune, which allows me to do it in cents here. I'm going to turn the pitch modulator on. We're going to right click the fine tune. And we're going to add a modulator. This is the Cubase built-in modulators, which are new-ish. We're going to go for LFO, and straight away you can see our LFO is controlling the fine tune. A little bit extreme. We want it to be on bipolar so it swings both ways, and we want the percentage to be about 1.5%, which will do plus or minus 3. But we want it to be totally random. So we're going to change this to sample and hold. So the shape is going to change every time the pitch changes. And we're going to change this to frequency, about 0.25, about every 4 seconds, something like that, 3 seconds. Then we're going to make sure the sync here is free. So the modulator runs free all the time, drifting in and out randomly, like hardware would. Random phase, and we're going to set the shape actually to about between 80 and 100% because that's just going to smooth the transition between each pitch point, rather than being very sudden. Set that to about an 85, 86. And what you can see now is you can actually see the waveform moving. Look at that. Let's have a listen. And if we hover here, we can see we're getting random pitch variables. So let's compare the two. So this is our static loop and then straight into the loop drifting in and out of pitch. It's very subtle, but your ears lock into it. That movement is what our brains translate as warmth. And when you start layering that up with multiple things going in and out of pitch, it starts to feel alive. Let's have a look at another example. Up here, I have some chops in Serato. I've duplicated that below. This is Serato Sample, and what we're going to do is we're going to add a modulator, again LFO. We're going to actually hit learn this time. We're going to hit the D tune so we can do sense, and we're just going to tap that, and straight away you'll see we now again have control of the D tune. We're going to drop this to 1.5%. We're going to make sure bipolar is set. Let's open up the full modulators down here. Again, we're going to change this to frequency, about 0.25 every 2, 3, 4 seconds, something like that. Sample and hold, smooth shape. And we're going to make sure this starts at 0. And we're going to set this to 3. We should have random cent changes, which we do. Let's compare against the original again. So this is without. Sounds alright. In. It's very hard to explain, but you can, I hope you can hear that, right? There's a feeling. Let's hear it all together. The static version with the static drums. The second two bars will be the pitch drifting versions. Starts to feel alive. And you can imagine if you stack that up across your whole track, you really would start to get that kind of analog feel. And then finally, to show you what's happening, right? Basic sine wave playing through Serum. And I thought this would be good to show you because we can load up Cubase's tuner, right? And we can see perfect pitch, which is a digital problem. Instruments, machinery, analog that's not possible, right? Not until technology got to a point where it could. Let us put a modulator, an LFO, into the fine tune. So again, we can see that moving. We're gonna do exactly the same. 1.5, we're gonna set it to 3. We're gonna change our frequency to 0.25. You could type it in roughly, smooth out the shape, sample and hold. Random phase if we want. And now, why I wanted to do this though is to show you the tuner, and it's gonna randomly move. I hope. There you go. That's kind of, in a nutshell, we're simulating cassette tape hardware that cannot hold that perfect pitch. So you could apply this anywhere. Random pitch per drum hit like an old MPC. Slow LFO drift on pad samples for that tape feel. And stuff pushed to the left, you could have minus a few cents. Stuff to the right, plus a few cents. And you start to get width in pitch. Combine that with some light saturation and your clean digital mix suddenly has soul. So next time your mix feels a little bit too polished, just give it a little drift, a few cents of life. Once you hear it, you can't unhear it. Listen, I'm Johnny, Mitekiss, mainly produce drum and bass and hip hop. I'm here documenting my journey as a music producer, now independent. I want to show you everything, all the glory of music production. So subscribe, send the video to someone who might find it useful, and see you on the next one. Peace.